Hi guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. I was recently contacted by the company ZSCM. They asked me if I wanted to try out some of their supplies from their website, and they seem to do mostly sort of like markers, like brush markers, acrylic markers, paint pens, stuff like that. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it out. And they asked me to select a few things, and I did, and it arrived. It actually arrived about almost a week ago, but we were away for the last few days, so I didn't have a chance to unbox it. But here we are. Today we're going to unbox it. We're going to swatch them out and see what we think. So, okay, first off, they sent me some outline pens. So these, I will be honest, I got these mostly because I knew my daughter would love playing with them as well, but we're definitely going to try them out, and I think they'd be really fun for like some calligraphy or like cursive writing, like if you're going to be writing greeting cards and stuff later this year for the holidays, or birthday cards or anything like that. I think these would be really fun for that sort of project. Then I also selected a 20-piece pack of their acrylic paint markers, and there's 10 black and 10 white. This is the sort of thing that I'd seem to use black and white acrylic paint pens the most, and so having a good stash of them is always handy. I think they're all the same. So here's one of each. I'm not going to pull them all out. That's what the nib looks like. We'll activate them and try them out as well in a minute. Let me see if I can get you to see. There we go. So it's not a super sharp nib, but it's a fine enough nib for doing detailed work. Sorry if you hear trains in the background. I do have the windows closed, but I think one of them is slightly open, so I feel a breeze. Anyway, so there's a nice fine nib there. So yeah, we'll try those out in a bit. And then I think the last one is the big item. Let me just... Oh, look at that. There's a hefty case. Get rid of the rubbish. Okay, and this is a set of their 100 color dual tip brush pens, so that should be oh, there we go. There it is. 100 dual brush pens, acid free, blendable, water based brush and fine tip in one pen, so that'll be fun. Let's open this up. Where's there it is. And I'll leave a link to the website and everything down below. I don't get any commission for it or anything. I haven't been paid to make this review. I've only been sent the products to try out and share my thoughts on. I will say the case itself, as soon as you get it out of the plastic, has a bit of a chemically smell to it, but I'm sure that's one of those things that will dissipate as it's aired out, as it were. When you open it up, here we go. What's this? Ah, so you get some extra nibs. Fine nibs and the brush nibs, so that's really handy, so you can replace any damaged nibs. And then you also get a colouring book. We've got a little colour chart and some colouring page. I'm not sure about the quality of this paper, but we can definitely give it a go. Pretty fine pages here, but maybe we'll try colouring in one of these pages or part of one of these pages. That's a nice one. Yeah, that's quite nice. That's a nice little additional thing to have in here. So there's that. And let's take a look at the pens. So they fold, oh wow, it's double-sided. Yeah, so it's on both sides. Here they are numbered. The pens are numbered on both ends actually. And there's a marking. Let me just grab one of these out and show you. Let's see, I can get this to focus on my hand, not the back. There we go. So you can see here you've got the number 42, so that'd be the color number, and you can see on the pen this side has a brush and this side has a bullet nib, so you can see which end of the barrel has which sort of nib. So this is the brush tip, and then this is the fine tip. It's a proper fine liner tip as well, which is nice. And I have a Tombow brush pen here for comparison. yeah, similar sort of color. So you can see the size difference. So it is quite a bit smaller than a Tombow, which probably isn't the worst thing in the world because they are quite chunky. These ones quite big. And the brush tips, just take the nib tips off so you can see the comparison. They are ever so slightly smaller than the Tombow brush tip. They are ever so slightly smaller in length than the Tombow. You can't really tell, but they're about the same sort of width, sort of brush tip. So there's that. And then the other end is, on Tombows it's a bullet nib, but on the ZSCM pens they are a fine liner tip. There we go, focusing. Okay, so that's the differences between these pens and the Tombows for anyone who was curious about that. Put that one away. And yeah, I think we're gonna have to swatch all of these, aren't we? And figure out what all these colors are. This one is interesting because the cap is actually transparent compared to the rest of them, which is an interesting, that you can see here. The one on the right, here we go, focus, focus, focus. Yeah, the one on the right, the cap looks more transparent, or slightly more transparent than the one on the left. Most of all the other markers have this kind of solid cap, whereas this one you can kind of see through it a little bit. So that's, again, interesting. So we'll see what that's like. The case is quite nice as well. It's nice to have a, oh, here's another slightly transparent one. So it'll be interesting to see what the differences are. But yeah, so let's get to swatching them. I'll probably do this bit set to music because it's probably going to take a while. I will also swatch out these, and we'll come back and see how they all look at the end. All the swatching has been done, so what do we think, or what do I think about this? I think the brush pens are great. They work really well. There are a few other little things I want to try with them, which we'll do together in a little bit, but otherwise I think It's got a pretty decent colour selection. I do think there are a lot of repeated colours, which, let's face it, when you have 100 colours, it's probably going to happen. I'm not a huge fan of these fluorescents. There's one, two, it's kind of fluorescent-ish, sort of fluorescence in there, which I'm not, they're like sort of highlighter colours, not the biggest fan. There are a lot of colours, especially in the greens and blues, and some of like the reds and pinks as well, actually all of them. There are a lot of colours that look very similar to each other. For example, these 3 greens here all look incredibly close. There's a lot of these sort of turquoisey colours that are very similar. There's like these darker blues are all very similar. These 3 reds at the top are fairly indistinguishable from each other. The greys are actually pretty good in terms of being different, but like there's a lot of these oranges and yellows and brown, like all the colours have lots of really close matches, which in some respects is not the end of the world, because then it means you can have for example, like say if 1 and 3, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but 1 and 3 in person are almost identical colours. So it just means that, oh well, okay, for maybe for a while I'll just use number 1 first, that colour, and then when that one runs out I can replace it with number 3. So it's almost like having duplicates within the set. Because these pens in particular, they're not available open stock, you can only buy them in the sets, and the sets do come in different sizes. I think it starts at 60 and the largest set you can get is 120, I believe. So the set I have is 100. So believe it or not, there are actually 20 more colours to go with this. So in that respect, I think it's a really good range of colours for a very fairly affordable price. I can't remember what the price was exactly, but I'll have links to all of these items below in the description box so you can go check them out. I'm going to skip over the acrylic pens for a second, I'll come back to that. The outline pens work really well on white paper. You can see the different colours as the outline, and they've got silver in the middle. But on black paper, they just all look the same. They all look silver. You can't actually see any outlines. So that's worth noting. But they do work really lovely on white paper. Then the acrylic paint markers, I was incredibly disappointed with these. I was so hoping these would be good. And they're just not that great, to be quite honest. The black one, the first one I pulled out, the first black paint marker I pulled out, didn't activate properly. It's like super scratchy. Doesn't write properly. The ink is activate. It took forever to activate the ink, to get it to come down the barrel. It's just not working very well. The second black one, I took out another one just to make sure it wasn't to see if it was just a dud. This one works a lot better. It took a while. It took a long time to activate still, and it still skips every now and again on the paper. See, like that. But it works better than the first one I tried. And the white pen, here I did a bit of a Sharpie line and it worked better on the Sharpie, but on this black brush pen, because they're water based, it kind of leaches up the colour a little bit from underneath. And this one also took forever to activate. It works a bit better. I used it here for the heading here, and it works alright to write with. So you do have to make sure you pump it before. It also skips. It's not perfect. It's not as smooth as I would hope. So yeah, I'm really sorry, got cut off there. But what I was saying was I wouldn't really recommend this set of acrylic paint markers, the 10 black, 10 white, from ZSCM personally. Did not have a good experience with them. I've tried a couple. I'll try a few more just to make sure it's not just me having a dud one. Anyway, like I said, not hugely impressed with these ones. I'll try and see if I can get some that work better, but yeah, not what I was hoping for with those. And then the outline pens, like I said, I think they're really fun. I think they're really fun to play with, and you can do some really fun things with them. So, oh, okay, they do bleed through to the back side of the paper, so that is worth noting. They don't bleed through onto the, oh, they did a little bit, so you might want to protect the page underneath if you are going to be working in a sketchbook with these pens, with the outline pens. All right, let me just pop this out the way. the other thing I did with the brush markers is I went through and I actually picked out my favorite shades, and as it turned out I picked out 50 of the colors. So I literally took out half the pens from the pencil case. The case is actually really handy. I do like the case, but I don't think it's super practical for everyday use to like store the pens in long term, because I found the elastics are quite tight, which you kind of want because you don't want the pens to just slip out, but it just makes it a bit awkward and cumbersome to slip them in and out all the time. So I think what I'll do is I'll put these into like a pot or something and keep them on my desk so that I can have them more readily accessible to play with. One thing I wanted to say, these last 7 colors here in the swatching, they were just, I have issues with the way they've arranged the colors in this set. I will be honest, it is a little bit all over the place. Like you randomly have a purple here in the middle, and then randomly it's just like, it's just weird. And there's randomly a brown here in the middle of the yellows. It just doesn't work for me. The greys are randomly between the reds and the yellows. It's just wrong in my opinion in terms of the color arrangement. But I did actually really like how they put these 7 colors together as a color palette. I actually think that's really pretty, and I like all those tones together. You got some nice darks, you got some lighter mid-tones and some lighter colors as well. So yeah, I actually really like that color combination. So I thought I would just mention that really quickly. Okay, so what I'm going to try now is a bit of blending with these markers, because apparently they are blendable according to something. The cover, the wrapper I think that was on it said they were blendable. So I'm just going to grab a few colors and see if I can blend them together. Now I'm not a big marker artist person, so I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to markers, but I'm just trying and playing around to see how this works. And they're supposedly water soluble, so we'll also test that out and see how that works. Okay, yeah, so like I thought, they're not going to be super blendy between them, but let's just take a little bit of, I'll put down a few colours and we'll test out the water solubility of them. And this is a mixed media paper, so alright, so they are slightly water soluble, but I wouldn't say they move massively in water. You're definitely still going to see the lines under them, but also I guess the type of paper you use might also have an impact on that. Another thing that you can do to use them a bit more like watercolour, I'll do it on this plastic here. You can just scribble a bit of ink onto there. It's just there. Let's do a couple of colours. Then you can just take a paintbrush, pick up the ink and paint it on to your paper to get more of a watercolour type effect. That way, you know, in that sense they are water soluble. You can treat them, you can use them like you would watercolours in the sense you scribble them out onto a palette, use a bit of water and pick them up. They will sort of, by doing this, it does water down the colour a little bit, so you'll get more paler tones. But it works, and it's one way you can use to mix colours together as well. So let's say if we take a yellow, that one's not super clear, you can't really see that one that well. But let's take a yellow and a blue. And then we take a wet brush and just mix them together. Get sort of like a greeny blue colour. Alright, so that worked. Okay, so overall, what do I think of these? I think the brush pens are great. I think the outline pens are a lot of fun. I'm not sure how I would use them or how often I would use them as like an actual art medium, but just to play around with, they are a lot of fun. And I think they're great for just, like I said, just playing around. Or like little crafty projects with kids and stuff like that. Like I said, I know my daughter's gonna absolutely love these. The acrylic paint markers, I would pass on those. I would not recommend. They were not particularly great and I didn't have a particularly good experience with them. But otherwise, yeah, I think the brush markers are great. Definitely probably a more affordable version than Tombows. Can't remember how much. I'm pretty sure Tombow sets, at least in the UK, they are like incredibly expensive. And the set of 60 of these is really affordable. So in that regards, I think they are a really good alternative to Tombows. If those are out of your price range. And I only have a few Tombows, so yeah, lots of fun. All right, let me know what you guys think. Do you have brush pens? Do you use Tombows, or do you use some other sort of like some other brand of brush pens? And yeah, just let me know what you think, and I will catch you guys again soon. All right, take care. Bye.